Hey guys, this is Mattek from Fantasy Insiders here to give you 3 keys on how to turn around your 1-3 fantasy football team. I have a team in a league that I care very much about with all of my friends from high school and college that I currently am 1-3 in, and we are going to use this as a springboard to have a larger conversation on how to turn around your bad start to the fantasy football season. So the first key is going to be determining, are you on the right or wrong side of variance thus far? These accumulated statistics here on NFL.com are from the first 3 weeks of the season, but I think they will give us a good indication of where we are going. As you can see, I am currently 6th place in points scored, and I am in 4th place in points scored against, but only, about 15 points more than the league average. I certainly have not gotten as lucky as to have 312 points scored against me, but, I'm not... As of just looking at these points columns, I have not ran particularly good or particularly bad. But before you determine what you're going to do with your 1-3 team, this is the first decision you need to make. Do I have a strong team that's underperforming? Do I have a bad team that's overperforming? Do I have a good team that's getting crushed? So on and so forth. All of those variables. So the first step is determining right side, wrong side of variance or luck. Then you need to go to your team, and our second key is going to be figuring out your strengths and your weaknesses of the roster. Right now, in the game center, it shows that I'm leading this game, but I have only Demaryius Thomas left, going up against Patrick Mahomes with only a 17-point cushion. So I'm assuming that this is a 1-3 start. So going in and looking at this specific roster, David Johnson, James Conner, Jordan Howard, Sony Michel, Matt Breida, Nyheim Hines. Pretty good stable of running backs. The wide receivers, DT, Hogan, completely nothing. Robbie Anderson, droppable. Geronimo Allison, probably droppable with the concussion, but, not a specific player video, just talking about circumstance. I'm streaming defense. I'm streaming quarterbacks. Those guys don't matter. A big factor that a lot of you guys might be dealing with is Rob Gronkowski. I think he probably features on a lot of 1-3 or 2-2 teams because he started out week 1 hot and did not do anything really at all the last 3 weeks. I think 4 for 44 is his second best game of the season. So Rob Gronkowski owners, if you're watching this, this is a good place for you to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of your roster. And that fits into our third key, which is going to be, finding 2-1 or 3-1 trades, moving bench depth for starting value. Because the key is to make the playoffs. And while having depth is great, when you get to the playoffs, having multiple start-sit options is great. Really, we want to be consolidating all of our value into the starting lineup of our teams. So looking at this specific team, a great 2-for-1 or 3-for-1 trade would be combining, 2 of these running backs and maybe with Gronk, maybe without, and trying to trade for a wide receiver that has the ability to, be a starting player moving forward. An example of someone that we might like would be Julio Jones. That would be a great trade target. Julio has not scored yet this season. He's had 23, 9, 12, and 21 fantasy points. So if another owner in your league is not technically the most savvy player, maybe Julio would be someone that they would be willing to part with. Maybe someone like Odell Beckham. Probably not Michael Thomas. Maybe DeAndre Hopkins. These are sorts of guys that you would want to be looking for if you have running back depth. If you have a lot of wide receiver depth, but you have no running backs, I think someone like James Conner is actually a great trade target. I think Jordan Howard could be acquired cheaply. I think someone like Alex Collins, probably, you could swing, Tyler Boyd and Randall Cobb for Alex Collins. If the other team really needs some wide receivers, that would be an example. So our 3 keys were, first, figuring out if you had ran bad or ran well thus far. The second key was to figure out the strengths and weaknesses of your roster. And the third key was to find 2-for-1 or 3-1 trades where you consolidate the value of your roster to try and move more fantasy points into your starting lineup.